first started riding bucking horses, I wanted to be known as the very best ever. In order to be known as the very best ever on paper, you know, I have to win 6 world titles, and that's my goal. He was an amazing man. You know, he has friends, good friends across the nation. You know, most people have 5, 6, 10 good friends, but I mean, he had hundreds of them. And the ERA, what they presented was spot on. Less rodeos for more money against the best guys with the best stock. And at the beginning, it was that way. I haven't been this hungry and feeling as good as I have since 2011. I don't have the power of youth, but I feel really, really good.
Hi everyone, I'm Jeff Metters. Welcome to Bullseye. What makes a sports icon? Is it talent, charisma, success? No doubt Rodeo's Kaycee Field has all of that and a whole lot more. From where I sat, he seemed to be an overnight success. His dad was a 5-time world champion, and Kaycee just kind of had unmatched natural ability. But he also brought a new kind of style and fitness to bareback riding. Success happened, and it happened fast. You won 4 world titles, 4 straight. You made it look easy. Was it as easy as it looked?
You know, looking back, I was a young man and prepared, worked really hard for it, and I just got to the rodeo and did my job, and I was in a different state of mind where it wasn't easy, you know. You still have to get ready and get focused just like any other ride, but it seemed like 11 especially, you know, it didn't matter what was going on underneath me when I was on a horse. I could wave to the crowd and chomp on my bubble gum. But it was a fun time in my career, that's for sure. And the way I prepared for those few years was like I've never done before.
You look at the generations of bareback riders, and you know, Marvin Garrett had kind of a wild style, and Bobby Moat, you know, I don't know if proper is the right word for it, but you know, he had a style that was just very clean. And then I watched you come along, and you're the first guy I ever saw. It almost looked like you overpowered those bareback horses. You just were strong, stayed right in the middle. How do you describe your style?
It was 2011 or 2010. I went on the Wrangler National Patriot Tour and come home from that and watching our military prepare for war, and I wasn't doing crap to get ready to ride a bucking horse. And it's a very aggressive 8 seconds. And so I come home from that and talk to my dad, and it was like, you know, look at all these other sports and look at what they put into it. Look at our military, what they put into it. And I come home off of that tour a little bit older, a little bit growing up. It matured me quite a bit. And I started to realize the talent that I had, how I could see what was going on underneath me compared to everybody else. And so in 2010, before the NFR, me and my dad, we really watched a lot of videos and looked at a lot of pictures, my pictures, his pictures. And right then we started, you know, if you got them going faster, your feet going faster right out of there, and you had your feet set in the neck, when they're up here instead of coming down, you're gonna be a lot better off. We started breaking it down to where I was beating the horses. It didn't matter what the horse did underneath me. It didn't matter the draw. And it all come from the first jump. You know, everybody used to mark them out, hold them for 2, build your ride. Well, that's 2 jumps that you're not judged of a spurring contest. And so I started spurring them as fast as I could that first jump. As soon as not when the horses come off the ground like that, when those hooves hit the ground and you feel that come up their legs and your rig and hit the ground like that, you bring them. And I remember the first time I did that, it was like there was nothing to hang on to. I brought my feet and set them, and it was like no power. I didn't feel anything. I set my feet and I was just, and did it again. And I was like, wow, there's nothing happening on my arm. I'm not feeling anything. I don't get that pop. It's clear vision. I see what's going on. And so from right there, and then in 2010, I broke my arm. I was pissed. I went on a tour. I did a good thing, you know, giving back to the military. You know, Lord, how can you do this to me now? I'm on a heater. I'm kicking butt all winter long and break my arm, and it was kind of devastating for me at that time. But it made me grow up even more and come back even stronger after that one. And then in 2011, me and my dad were on a horse ride, and I said, I'm going to win that Top Gun award. And he's like, I know you will. I believe in you. And I'm like, I'm going to win more rounds than anybody has. And he's like, I believe you. Quit telling me, show me, quit talking. And went down to Vegas and right off the bat just started kicking butt. And to explain my riding style, back to the question is, I think Bobby rides great, and I look at his videos a lot, but I guess I ride correct like Bobby, but at the same time I have some things in my mind that I want to let loose and show off, and maybe look at like that I might get bucked off at any second, but I'm still under control.
When we come back, the rodeo world called him Louie, but Kaycee called him Dad. How losing a legend turned Kaycee's world upside down.
To get in there and look up to my dad's seat, and if you wouldn't cry, I wouldn't cry.
Bullseye is brought to you by Cinch Jeans and Shirts. Welcome back to Bullseye. To better understand Kaycee Field, you kind of got to know Louie Field, his father. He was a 5-time world champion. He won 3 all-around titles and 2 bareback titles, and was eventually inducted into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. And even though he was only about 5'8", he was a giant in the industry. When the 2015 season got underway, Kaycee was having a fairy tale career, but things would change dramatically over the next 12 months. You were pretty much on the cruise control for 5 in a row. Your dad had gotten sick. You roll into the NFR in 15. What transpired over those 10 days?
That 10 days was hard. It wasn't fun. I didn't want to be there. My dad wasn't there. I had never been there when he hadn't been there. So I hate to be a wimp, but it was different. It was hard to, if you wouldn't cry, I wouldn't cry. It was hard to get in there and look up to my dad's seat and not see him. And we'd always, me and my traveling partners, every night we would kind of, make it fun to go over there and, hey, Lou, what tonight? What should we do tonight? And his, every night, it never changed from it. The first day I went there, just have fun. Just do what you normally do. So we would always go over there and, hey, watch this. Hey, what tonight, Dad? Have fun, and Veronica, look at these guys, these kids. I've been there. These guys are silly, But it was something else. I don't remember one horse I drew. It was honestly, my preparation is what got me through that, because I was not there. I rode good, but I was capable of more. It was sad to come home. Yeah, I was a sad guy. I don't like losing at all. But to come home and tell my dad I didn't win the world and knew he was going to be passing soon, it wasn't not how I wanted to leave Vegas.
Yeah.
But I've grown up a lot from that. In 2015, even talking about it, I don't like it. I hate negative energy. I hate confrontation. And so to go back to 2015, the last time I went to Vegas, there for a couple of years, it was, that should have been mine. I had a piss poor attitude about it for a long time, all the way up until 2017, the fall. And it showed in my riding. It showed in my day-to-day life. I had to man up quite a bit. And it took a long time. After 15, and everywhere I went, there was a tribute to my dad, and I never grieved for a long time. I just would go to the rodeo and Louisville, and yeah, thanks, and hear a story, and thanks, and get on the horse and get home as fast as I could. And that's about how it went for a few years, just in a fog. Wasn't fun.
He's such a legend. What do you instill in you?
I don't know. I would hope to say a lot, but he was an amazing man. He has friends good friends across the nation. You know, most people have 5, 6, 10 good friends, but I mean, he had hundreds of them across the nation. Everywhere I go, there's somebody that tells a cool story or a funny story or a story about him helping them or something like that. And so after he passed, my main goal is to be there for other people, you know, be there for friends and make an impact in other people's lives. I don't, you know, look at myself as a famous, you know, guy or, you know, a star or anything like that, but I do have some influence on some people, and it's a fun thing to see that I can put a smile on somebody's face, that a little kid does look up to me, or, you know, a man that, you know, my dad knew and his son that's walking in his footsteps carries more of Louis than actually rodeoing in him. So
Yeah.
that's I just want to be known as a good guy.
Following the loss of his father and just missing a 5th straight world title, Kaycee found himself at a crossroad. He faced a very tough decision.
I wanted to beat the best. I didn't want to tiptoe around winning a world title. I wanted to beat the very best. I wanted to beat Bobby and rub it in his face. At the close of the 2015 Wrangler National Finals Rodeo, the outlook was bright. The Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association, or PRCA, had just signed a new deal with Las Vegas to keep the national finals at the Thomas & Mack Center for another 10 years. But there was an undercurrent in pro rodeo. Some of the sport's top cowboys decided to go their own way. They formed the Elite Rodeo Association, or ERA. It caused a major rift in pro rodeo. There were lawsuits, hard feelings, and eventually the ERA would dissolve in just over a year. But at the start, the sport's top cowboys had a decision to make. And Kaycee Field, even though he was chasing history, opted to go ERA. After 15, you kind of hit a crossroads there, ERA and PRCA. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of the guys that went ERA, I could see what they were, what they were thinking. You were a question mark for me, because just like we were talking about history, you're standing on the brink of being the best ever. You'd won 4 in a row. 15 didn't go the way you wanted, and then you kind of take a detour. What were you thinking? What motivated you? What was the mindset on that? Number one mindset was the guys I was competing against. I didn't want to be in Vegas and not competing against world champions. I didn't want to tiptoe around winning a world title. I wanted to beat the very best. I wanted to beat Bobby and rub it in his face. I wanted to beat Will Lowe. I wanted to beat Tilden. I wanted to beat Justin McDaniel. And then the sport of rodeo, since I had got in it, since I went to the finals in 2008, had hit a plateau. I won more money in 2011 and won less rodeos than I did in 2014. And so rodeo was kind of at a plateau and not growing and almost declining a little bit. And so, you know, I wanted more TV exposure. The sport needed more TV exposure. They needed more people involved with social media and pushing it out there where it was in people's hands. And the ERA, what they presented was spot on. Less rodeos for more money against the best guys with the best stock. And at the beginning, it was that way. A lot of people fell through with their sponsorships. There were some people that didn't stay in the ERA like they said they would. And so it didn't fall apart, but it wasn't what we all visioned it being. Right. And there was a lot of good things that came out of it. My opinion, the American, Houston, they wouldn't be counting toward world standings. There's rodeos that are adding $10,000 that were only 2,500 added. These big tournament style rodeos are getting better and better. And the friendships that I developed that I wasn't able to, you know, with the tiny event guys, because most of the time they're out in the slacks when I'm out in the performance, and at the big rodeos when we are together, you got to load up and get out of there and get to the next one. So the friendships that I developed over there is something that I cherish about the ERA.
Regrets on the ERA, or do you chalk that up to experience? What would you do it differently? Is that not a fair question? What?
That's not a fair question. Obviously, like you said, my legacy and what I'm trying to achieve, it did get in the way of that. I don't regret not going to the PRCA because of the family time that I needed at that time.
Yeah.
But the part that's hard for me is, what if I would have made the NFR in 16? There's a lot of different ways to look at it, but when you start breaking it down like that, you're looking for the negative.
Feel like the game changed maybe a little bit?
Yeah, I do. Tim O'Connell, Bigelow, R.C. Lanningham, those guys got some confidence when the big dogs, kind of the old men, stepped out of the sport and allowed them to win the big dollars and feel that self-confidence. And it changed some guys, and it, still to this day, I feel like it motivates them, and they ride way better because of that. And to come back and compete against that, what I was wanting the most out of the ERA is competing against the best guys and beating the best guys, and then come back to the PRCA. And I was expecting to step right back in it and just go right back to my old ways, winning every rodeo every time I got on. And it wasn't that way. I wasn't winning, and I was lucky to get a third and fourth check, and it was hard. And that's one thing, that period of time with not winning and getting on bucking horses and developing some bad habits and missing things that were not in my life anymore. There was stuff that just didn't go my way right when I came back, and it's made me who I am today. It's made me who I am this year. It's made me a better bareback rider, and it's starting to show. I'm starting to appreciate those hard times a lot more. If I don't win the world this year, dang it, but I'm happy I got my family, and I've got my friends.
The last 8 years for Feild have been the best of times and the worst of times. But through it all, he hasn't given up on his dream. When we come back, we'll discuss his unfinished business.
In order to be known as the very best ever on paper, I have to win 6 world titles. In the 4-year stretch from 2011 to 2014, life and success were pretty easy for Kaycee Field. In the 4 years that followed, it was just the opposite. He was still gritty, he was still tough. It's just the mountains that he faced were so different. As we sit here in the summer of 2019, it's like the winds of change are blowing once again. And Kaycee Field's assault on rodeo's record book is far from finished. Now you're chasing history. You're at 4. You need 5 to catch Joe Alexander and Bruce Ford. And how important is it for you to get 5 and maybe 6? Right now it's really important. I'm a little bit older in the bareback riding. There's been guys that rode lots longer than me, but the way that I get prepared, the way that I focus is a whole different ballgame than in 2011 when I won my first world title. And when I first started riding bucking horses, I wanted to be known as the very best ever. And in order to be known as the very best ever on paper, I have to win 6 world titles, and that's my goal. I want to win 6 world titles, and I want to do it before I'm 35. And I haven't been this hungry and feeling as good as I have since 2011. I don't have the power of youth, but I feel really, really good.
Do you see it? Do you visualize it? How do you get ready mentally for NFR or a big rodeo that's right there?
If you got the mental game, it's easy. You do your homework, get ready, and go and ride. That's all it is. It's 8 seconds. Mark them out, give it your all. But to get ready mentally, it takes a long time. It takes a lot of confidence, a lot of experience, and you got to dream it. I lost that. When my dad got sick, I wasn't dreaming of being the best. I wasn't dreaming of picking up buckles. I wasn't dreaming of giving a victory speech. I wasn't dreaming of setting my feet in a horse's neck waiting for him to fall out of the ground or out of the air. I was more, when I'm done rodeo and I need to have a business, I need to step away from rodeo and I need to step into this where I have the same lifestyle. I need to, I had all these distractions that weren't anything looking back. They were the most important thing at the time, but looking back, it was dumb of me. It was not what a veteran would do to the sport. And so after I grieved my own way for my dad, the end of 2016, the beginning of 2017, even into 18, I think is really when it flipped for me. when I started seeing things clearly again and dreaming about it. You know, when I practice, when I get in here in the gym and I'm riding the bucket machine or the spur board, you know, I'm in Vegas. I go to a weird place. I make sure that I'm dreaming and I'm there. I'm an out-of-body experience almost, and really put myself through the worst situations in Vegas, the worst situations in Houston, to where when it is the best situation, it makes it so much easier. And as soon as you have that embedded in your body, in your mind, and you're putting yourself through the pain in the gym, and when you get to Vegas and the lights and the fireworks, it's like icing on the cake. Bring it on. You're second, you're third, you're fourth, you know, bring it on. I expect that every time.
And what sucks for you is so do we and the fans. No
A little added pressure.
No pressure there. So yeah, I'm a huge fan.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Don't quit till you get 6.
I won't.
All right.
Yeah.
Kaycee Field has great perspective. He's got a healthy respect for the past, and he's reshaped his goals for the future. It's hard to say if he'll win the 2019 Bareback Riding World Championship. Who knows? Tim O'Connell, Clayton Bigelow, or 12 other Cowboys could be the last man standing. But I do know this. Kaycee's going to arrive in Las Vegas believing he can win. And if history is any indication, I don't think I'd bet against it. We leave you with a feature that we shot several years ago. It's Kaycee and his traveling partner, Tilden Hooper, up to no good in Las Vegas.
You Kaycee Field?
So we'll ask questions here, sir. Is Kaycee Field your favorite barrel racer?
Yeah, she does all right, you know.
Does she wear a helmet?
Yeah.
Are you not talking to us because we're rough stock guys and you're a tiny event guy?
Is Kaycee Field your favorite barrel racer?
Definitely.
Mine too.
Hey, maybe. Do you know who Kaycee Field is? He said yes. He said yes.